Planning for a writing demonstration. In this mini-lecture, you will think back to what you saw in my demonstration video as you learn how I planned the lesson. You probably have a lot of questions, such as, how did I know what to teach? Where did I get the data? How did I decide to model it in the way I did? Did everyone need the same lesson? Why so many stopping points? How did I know who to ask questions of? What did I do after the lesson? What if the students still didn't get it? These are all great questions. I hopefully can answer them. First, for the question of how did I know what to teach, I had specific evidence in which I used to prepare my lesson. I collected data from my student papers on an assignment in which they were to write a structured paragraph on why they thought Ruby Bridges was considered to be one of our nation's heroes. The information they were collecting was from a book they had to use as a resource. I read through all of the papers first. Then I determined the biggest piece that would move my students towards proficiency. I noticed many students struggled with writing a clear and meaningful introduction. The decision I made was to model again what a clear and meaningful introduction looked like and sounded like. Notice I said many students. The reason I kept all of the students together was because I needed models in the audience to support the thinking students were going to have to do. The students who struggled would have a chance to hear a different way to think through their beginning. Thinking about the learners I had in front of me, I had many English language learners at the developing and expanding level on the writing rubric of the WIDA Consortium. I had to know a student at the developing and expanding level was working towards bridging the language. I knew I had to have a variety of sentence levels, organized and containing specific vocabulary related to the topic. These also included the following: linguistic complexity, vocabulary usage, and language control. Consequently, for my large group of ELLs, I made sure to include turn and talk activities so the students were able to hear each other's ideas. During these turn and talks, I assessed the students' understandings. I listened for my teaching point in their conversations. I thought through as they talked. Did they use the language I used? Did they understand the mistakes they made in their own writing, and what needed to be changed when they went back to their seat? This thought process was critical for me as to who was going to need the extra support after my demonstration. In addition, when planning for this lesson, I planned listen-fors when I ask a question. I always plan for student responses because then I know if the students took on the teaching. For example, a question I asked was, "What did you see me doing as a writer that you will do when you go back to your seats?" Knowing I would ask this question, I planned for the responses from the kids. In my planning, my notes might read, "You use short and long sentences. You use transitions. Some sentences have more details in them." If the students were unable to voice my listen-fors, I would have had to take a step back and reteach in the moment, and then ask the question again. When planning for stopping points in my demonstration, I could assess the listening and understanding of the teaching point. I had students turn and talk at a point in which I used a short sentence. The question to the kids was, "What kind of sentence do you think I should use next and why?" When choosing students to respond, most likely it was an ELL student who needed this understanding. The last thing I planned was what to look for when the students were in their seats. After teaching, listening, and watching the students in the group, I already knew who I was roving towards first and who to help get started again. These students might be in a shared writing the following day or the same day if needed. Make sure your roves are purposeful and you have a specific focus. In this case, my focus was checking in on the students who needed to take on this lesson.